Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness, and Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi, everyone. Today's topic is on meditation. So we're going to talk about our personal experiences with meditation, the benefits, the types that we've tried, and just like whatever comes up as far as the topic of meditation goes. So Donovan, what is your experience with meditation?
Kind of got into meditation in sort of a roundabout way that's probably different than a lot of people. But when I was at the start of my college career in psych, I went to a hypnosis show. Thought that it was super fake. So I went to do the research and figure out how it worked and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And eventually that led me to self-hypnosis, mm-hmm. which eventually led into meditation. For those who are not super familiar with self-hypnosis, it's kind of like a guided meditation for yourself, but it's a little bit different. Like it tends to look for kind of an outcome. Like you're trying to solve something, whereas, typical meditation is a lot more just relaxing and freeing your mind type of thing, or can be. Mm-hmm. So that's actually the way that I got into it. Since then, it's probably been, almost a decade of just having an on and off meditation practice, or something very similar in the form of something I would call self-hypnosis or whatever. So I've kind of had a weird hodgepodge of experience around meditation and kind of created, or at least felt, my own version without a ton of formal instruction. And just now in the last couple of years have I started looking at kind of resources around the more formal or traditional types of practices.
Okay. What have you found most useful or beneficial?
To me, it really is dependent on what's going on in my life at the time. Right. So the thing that's been awesome for me is having, kind of all these different variants or styles in my head, even though they're not attached to, I don't know, like the technical or correct names for most of these, but setting a certain type of intention depending on what's going on in my life has been really helpful. So, if I'm extra stressed about something at work, for example, I'm not going to do a meditation probably on like general love and kindness for the world, or like on my relationships, or on freeing my mind or relaxing, which I could, but most of the time in those instances, I'm going to set out a block of time to do something that's in form, essentially a meditation, right? I'm going to go sequester myself somewhere, block out everything else, close my eyes, and just focus on that specific thing. But maybe there's not one specific problem that I'm trying to unravel, but my life just feels a little bit out of balance. Or I just want to have the general practice, right? Like nothing's going wrong. I just want to do my practice. In those cases, I'm not going to pinpoint a problem and try to pull it apart. I'm just going to kind of focus on relaxing and, watching my thoughts and those kinds of things. So I don't think it necessarily falls under the traditional umbrella of what everyone would call meditation. But for me, these little variants and changes make a big difference in terms of having the kind of practice I need at the time.
Right. Yeah. I really think that is what a lot of people need, is to have more of a customized practice rather than thinking there's like this set way of doing meditation. You got to be like quiet and empty your thoughts or focus on one thing. I actually find that really difficult. And I know for a lot of my patients, they find that really difficult. So to have something adjusting your practice to what fits your need, because, your day-to-day changes and you're dealing with different things every day. I think that's a great approach.
So on that note, I'd be curious to know kind of what your experience has been and how you've interacted with meditation.
Yeah, I've had a lot of various experiences too, I guess actually over a decade of experience. But like you, I've, been consistent with the practice, and then I would not be consistent. I've Actually, what you were talking about, the self-hypnosis, in my medical program, we were trained to learn that it was called autogenic training. I know you knew that. But actually, it was more like mindfulness exercises when I was training to learn about biofeedback, which is like a relaxation training program. And that self-hypnosis or the autogenic training is kind of to repeat phrases to yourself, and you're visualizing like, oh, my hand is heavy and warm, my hand is heavy and warm. And that is sort of like a meditation, self-hypnosis, autogenic training, mindfulness exercise, whatever you want to call it. It's one that falls into that field. And really, when it comes to meditation, there's not really like right or wrong, but it's more about having a consistent practice. And that's, I think, where some people struggle with, and I do myself too. And I actually did attend a couple meditation retreats, like week-long retreats, and you would think it would be super relaxing and rejuvenating and everything like that. But my experience was that it was really hard. It was a struggle sometimes to wake up really early, climb a hill, and then meditate, and then do a workshop, and then meditate some more, and then have it was like a completely vegan meditation retreat, which I'm not vegan. So that was another challenge for me. And yeah, it was a struggle, but at the same time, I felt like I needed a vacation after the meditation retreat, honestly, just to decompress from that. But it was an invaluable experience. I remember one meditation that was really profound for me. It was called the Tong Len meditation, where to alleviate your own personal suffering, you actually take on the suffering of the world. And it sounds like counterintuitive, where you just imagine taking on the suffering of like the other people in the room, like you're breathing in their suffering and then you're breathing it out as like a healing light. And then you expand it and you take on the suffering of everyone in the town, and you breathe in that suffering and then breathe out the light, and then you take on the whole state and then the country and then the world. And I don't know if it was a really freaky coincidence, but I had been in Colorado. This was in Southern Colorado at a Feeding Your Demons retreat. And that's a whole nother thing that I could talk about. Like the idea of feeding your demons is, instead of resisting the things that you are unhappy with, like maybe you're dealing with addiction, or you're dealing with like this sense of procrastination or the sense of anger, whatever you resist will persist. So instead of resisting it and letting that demon grow, you actually nurture it, and you actually get what's going on with that demon and understand its pain and suffering, and help nourish and support it so it doesn't wreak havoc in your life. So that's the idea of feeding your demons. But going back to the Tong Len meditation that I did, I had been in Colorado for 4 or 5 days. So I had been in that meditation retreat for 4 or 5 days. And literally when we were doing this meditation as a big group in the classroom, I had a bloody nose. And I was like, whoa, I actually literally took on the suffering of the world. like it came out as blood. And I was like, this is a weird, freaky coincidence that it happened during that meditation. But honestly, I felt amazing after that. And it really is kind of, when you take the focus away from yourself and focus on helping others heal, that kind of in itself heals yourself. So that was a really profound meditation. Do I do that consistently? No. But that was just one remarkable experience that I had. But as far as other regular daily practices, I kind of alternate a lot like you. I think it is important to kind of maybe try one thing and stick with it for a few weeks at least to see how you like it as you adjust to it. But for me, again, like time is a factor. I would love to do an hour meditation if I could, but I don't always have the time. So for me, when I'm consistent, I like to do it in the morning, maybe a 5 to 15 minute meditation, depending on how much time I have. And I use Insight Timer. I love that app. It's great because, again, I kind of pick the mood that I'm in. Like sometimes it's a loving kindness meditation, or viewing your life as sacred, or like a gratitude meditation. And then other times I'm feeling like, oh, I'm really kind of like frazzled and all over the place. I need to focus, and so I can really be productive to get through my day. So yeah, sometimes it's like a focus productivity meditation depending on what I'm dealing with, or if maybe it's a happiness meditation. There's a lot out there. So I like the guided meditations. I don't always like just sitting and just being quiet and just being with that. That's honestly something that I have a hard time with, but I've done it, and but I generally like to have some guidance of some sort. So that's my preference.
Yeah. So as I was listening, I had a couple questions come to mind. One is, you have kind of your personal practice, and then you've also gone on these bigger retreats.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say the main differences are? Like, what's the biggest draw, I guess, right? Because I would imagine there's some sort of experiential difference at that level between sitting for 10, 15, an hour, which is mainly what I've done, and actually going on a full retreat, which I have yet to do, but have on my plans.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for me, and this was a long time ago, I think it was over 5 years ago. So I think I probably would do better if it was today, because I've been meditating more consistently. But I think the difference is, I think actually for that one in Southern Colorado, was dealing with a lot of personal things where I was just in a breakdown about a relationship, actually. I was like, what do I want to do for my school break? I think I just need to just get away from everyone and everything and escape. Like, I literally decided a week or two before the actual retreat to do it. And I was just like, yeah, I just need to do something for myself and get away from everyone and just like decompress. And I really found that healing. And I remember she wasn't the leader, but she was like the owner and the founder of the retreat center, Lama Soltram, I remember like sharing her, I was in my early mid-20s and I was talking about heartbreak and feeling this unrequited love. And she was just so kind and compassionate. And she was like, yeah, we've all been there. I was like, okay. And I actually, because it's been a while, I was just remembering that experience where in the beginning, because I'm very goal results oriented, I was really frustrated in the first 3 or 4 days of the meditation retreat because I'm like not seeing where I want to go. I'm not seeing the clear results. And I realized that was the breakthrough that needed to happen, was to give up wanting a certain outcome, wanting it to look a certain way, and being able to give it up and just being with what is. And that's really uncomfortable sometimes, just to be with what is. And yeah, it took at least 3 or 4 days in of the retreat to really start to feel like, okay, I get why I'm here now.
Yeah, it sounds like to me, it's kind of like a different strength, I guess, of self-reflection in terms of, like, if you wanted to relate it to exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a daily practice is like, okay, you're doing a couple push-ups or whatnot, and like that's good. You build some amount of strength,
Right.
but a retreat is like a whole separate experience of like, this is a boot camp. We're going to teach you everything, and here's all the fundamentals, and here's everything that you need to do this, and kind of learn about the experience more as a whole. Which is to say that both are useful, right? The small practice is useful, but maybe going out and having an entire week dedicated is useful in a way that you just get a more powerful tool or more time and focus to kind of unravel some of these things that may or may not happen during a smaller practice.
Right. Yeah. You could go a little deeper, which would be a little more uncomfortable, obviously, but you do get better results. You use the perfect analogy. It is like a boot camp. It's tough. Yeah. And I wasn't a fan of the early mornings. And it was also a technology detox because I had no cell reception. So I couldn't call anyone, couldn't like be checking my phone or anything. That was a challenge. Whereas I do like the daily 5 to 15 minute meditation because that's bite-sized and manageable. And it does help increase my energy and my focus and just having the self-love and compassion. But yeah, it's a different experience when you cram it all into 1 week versus just little bite-sized doses.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just to carry that analogy out a little bit more, like it wouldn't make sense to go to boot camp all day, every day, forever, right? Like
right. You do have to get back to your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me, and it's definitely something that's on my list to try at some point. The other question that I had was around what tools, I mean, I guess you mentioned one of them, but do you have kind of a set time that meditation tends to fall into your life, or ways that you make it easier for yourself? Because you said sometimes that's a little bit harder than others. So what do you do to try to inject that into your daily routine?
Yeah, I've actually been experimenting a little bit. Before, it would just be trying to be consistent with my morning routine of waking up, brushing my teeth, drinking some water, and then I'd work out, just 5 to 15 minute workout, sometimes because I was just strapped for time too. And then I would meditate after the workout. And that really, for just like, again, 5 to 15 minutes typically. And that, it kind of, to get my day started by like 8:30 a.m. So I think the meditation happened around 8 a.m., I guess. Although I fell off, that was like in November, where I was really good and consistent. But then the holidays happened and threw off my routine. And I'm just getting back into the routine now in the new year. And it has been a little bit of a challenge. I haven't been as consistent as I'd like. And I've been kind of playing around with the timing of that as well, because actually I started doing a later workout. I just joined CrossFit a few weeks ago, and the class that I'm doing is at 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So I had to readjust my schedule, and that really starts my day a little later in the day, so everything gets pushed back. So maybe I need to do some things earlier. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll just do meditation first thing in the morning, get some morning routine stuff done, and then go to my workout, and then I could shower and then start my day, basically. And that's more or less, it's been a little harder. I like meditating after working out, but I think it's just an adjustment I'm going to get used to. And I've actually just have been playing around with my alarm to just automatically, as my alarm, play a meditation. But I can't figure out how to get it to play longer, because it'll last for like 2 minutes and then it stops. And so I'm still working on it, because I was like, if it just automatically goes, then I'll do it. Yeah.
You'll have to let me know how that goes, because I would for sure sleep right through the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like the thing that has worked most well for you is kind of tying it into some other set of habits, like some other set pieces of the day. Like, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then meditate.
Yeah, it definitely helps when it's just part of your routine and you don't even have to think about it. When it becomes a routine, then there's less resistance to doing it. And I don't know why, for some reason, I like exercise. I haven't had the experience lately, but when I was getting back into my exercise routine in the new year, after being off the wagon for a week or two, every morning I'd wake up and be like, I really do not want to get out of bed to go work out. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. And that kind of happens with meditation. I don't feel like it. I don't do it. But it really, when it comes to healthy habits, it doesn't matter how you feel. Like, your feelings have nothing to do with it. You do the thing that is in alignment with what you're committed to. And what I'm committed to is my health and well-being. And that involves meditation and exercise. So even though I don't always want to do it, I know it's going to make me feel better. So I get up. It helps. My routine is just to put on my workout clothes, and that helps me get out the door, because I'm like, okay, at least I'm dressed to work out, so I might as well work out, and then I can start my day that way.
Yeah, I'm sure I stole this from somewhere, but I can't remember where. But that's kind of the thing that helps me too when I don't feel like doing whatever useful thing I'm supposed to be doing, is setting some kind of bar for action that's ridiculously low.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, fine, I don't feel like meditating for 15 minutes. It seems like too much. I'm going to do 1 minute. But the thing is, for almost every single activity like that, once I start that 1 minute, then I'm like, this is actually really nice. I can do 15 minutes. I'm not really in as much of a hurry as I'm pretending I am. I'm not really as opposed to this as I felt like 30 seconds ago. Like, that's the one that has worked really well for me, is just, okay, fine, I don't want to do my whole workout. I'm going to do 30 jumping jacks or something. And then once that starts, it's like, all right, I'm halfway there, which isn't true because I did almost nothing. But,
Okay.
but that seems to work pretty well for me.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the hardest part sometimes is just starting, getting moving. But once you get moving, it's like, oh, or whether it's exercise or like just starting your meditation. I like the 1 minute thing. I usually, if I'm in a rush, I'm like, okay, I can only do a 5 minute meditation. But then I'm like, oh, that doesn't, when you're at the 5 minute mark, you're like, that doesn't feel long enough. Someone just shared this with me, the idea of sometimes you need to slow down to be able to speed up. And I really found that when I was doing my morning routine consistently, I actually found myself actually taking the time to meditate and exercise, even if it was 10, 15 minutes of each. Having that, even though like before I'd be like, I never have time, I'm so busy. I actually found that taking the time, that half hour to have the routine, meditation and exercise, helped me be way more productive, way more focused, and just more intentional in my day. And so I really see that routine as invaluable. I can't go without it, then I'm just frazzled and trying to struggle through my day, versus when I meditate consistently, I feel more focused, and anything major stressful that comes up, I can just like, oh, okay. It doesn't bother me as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience in terms of if I spend the time to meditate and set, especially if I do a meditation on the intention I'm setting for the day and kind of the most important things I need to get done, then it seems like this amorphous blob of like, oh, I have to do so much, kind of sorts itself out into these buckets that make more sense. And then I've done some other stuff around just time management and whatnot. And so it helps me get a lot more clear on like, what is an actual realistic expectation of what to get done today, as well as watching out for things that are taking up time that I'm pretending are making me busy, but really aren't useful at all. Like, oh, somehow I looked at 300 Instagram posts today, even though I was so busy. Like, there's these little cracks in the side too that I often uncover or prepare for if I set an intention at the start of the day and meditate on it, because I know there's time slipping out the cracks when I feel like I'm so busy I can't do anything. There's almost always things that if I'm focused, I can avoid.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree. I think a lot of people, including myself sometimes, are in denial about, how much time actually gets wasted that could have been spent like doing something like meditation. Like, how many episodes of Netflix do you watch? You somehow have time for that, or you have time to be scrolling on your Facebook, and there's apps that can keep track of that for you. Of like, I'm actually afraid to download that app because I don't know if I want to know. But really, it's you can find the time if you're committed to making it a priority, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I have looked at those apps before, or like those graphs before, and sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes I've seen where it's like I spent 10 hours on stuff that I don't care about. 10 hours. Like, where did that 10 hours? I could have done so much stuff in 10 hours.
I know. Yeah. Right.
So I did have one other question that I was thinking of, which is, let's say that someone's watching this who's not familiar with meditation at all and is considering trying it. What do you think is the easiest route to get into it?
Yes, that's a great question. And I do this a lot because, I specialize in stress and anxiety treatment. So meditation or some mindfulness exercise is going to be incorporated somehow into the action plan that we're going to do. And some people have like zero experience with it. So I see this all the time. And so usually I start with like a very basic breathing exercise. And there's apps out there. One I like is called Breathing Zone, that just like paces your breathing. And there's like certain routines, like I talk about like diaphragmatic breathing, just breathing in and out through your nose. There's some other, I have a video out there if anyone wants to watch the whole video. But it basically, it doesn't matter if your mind is racing, like, because that's something people can't necessarily control that's why meditation's so hard, because their mind's racing and they're like, I can't focus on one thing. My brain's going like all like this all over the place. And so the breathing exercise, I'm like, hey, it's okay if your mind's racing and running its thoughts. Just continue to do the breathing. Like breathe in when it says to breathe in, breathe out when it says to breathe out. And just do that. It's very simple. And what happens is that the stressors that they're thinking about and worrying about and focusing on, they don't seem as stressful usually because you're getting your body to relax, because the physiology of your body is relaxing. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system state, versus the stress mode is your fight or flight mode, which is known as your sympathetic nervous system activating and firing. What happens to your body is, you breathe faster, your heart rate races, your blood pressure rises, you sweat. Those are like the signs you're in stress anxiety mode. Or and that's when you're ready to fight. Like if a bear walked into a room, you would have to like be able to run away. So the one thing you can control though is your breathing. So you can get your body out of that stress state if you change your breathing. So most people, average American or average people, adults, breathe from 12 to 20 breaths per minute. And that's normal, considered normal. But if you want to get your body into a parasympathetic relaxed state very quickly and easily, you're going to have to be breathing at 4.5 to 6.5 breaths per minute. And that's what the breath pacers and those apps are for, to slow down your breathing so you get your body into that relaxed parasympathetic state.
So I like that description, just because in my experience, a lot of the people who are a little bit skeptical or thinking about starting a practice are really thinking about or nervous about some of the other the more ethereal aspects of meditation, right? Some of the stuff like the practice that you were talking about earlier, which, breathing in suffering of the world type of thing, which makes sense if you've been doing meditation for a while to understand the point of that kind of practice, of getting kind of outside yourself or considering the broader implications in the world. But for someone just starting out, I've seen it kind of seep in as like, what are we doing here? What is the point? So I really like the description that you just gave, which gives a much more tangible physiological start to the practice and the point of the practice, because I think that's able to draw in more people who are on the more skeptical side and have a harder time understanding or really wanting to start a practice with such other claims or such like metaphorical like start. So that other thing that I wanted to mention based on what I was listening to is that I've seen a lot of people get really worried about expectations, right? What they want out of the practice. So I think that's a really nice starting point, because basically there's very few ways that you won't get that expected result, which is to say that if you are breathing deeply and slowly,
right,
then you're going to feel more calm.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and the effects are fast. I recommend generally 10 minutes a day. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward thing to follow. So again, it helps, even though your mind's racing, as long as you're still breathing in and out when it says, then you're good.
I do have another question, which is kind of based on what I was talking about. How would you frame for someone who's new some of the expectations or goals of meditating regularly?
Oh yeah, when it actually comes, because this is kind of an intro to my like biofeedback training, which is kind of like retraining your nervous system. And there's actually a physiological benefits of just breathing slower. I've actually, with this exercise, I've been able to get people off their hypertensive medications because it's lowering your blood pressure. Not to an unhealthy level, but it is, if you had high blood pressure, it'll lower it to, depending on where you're at, it will lower it up to, I've seen up to 20 points, 10, usually more like 10 points, but I've seen up to 20 points within 10 minutes, which is incredible. And other benefits have been, if they have panic attacks, it can resolve panic attacks. It can help digestive issues. It can help headaches. So there's a lot of physiological benefits if someone was suffering with a medical concern like that.
It sounds like when there's a tightening in the mind, there's a tightening in the body too.
Yes.
So like being able to relax the mind a little bit often also relaxes the body,
Yeah.
which can really resolve a lot of people's like problems from a physical standpoint.
Right. And this type of breathing exercise, it's training. Instead of just doing the mental focus, you're focusing on your body first, and that can help alleviate the mental stress. So it's kind of hitting it from another angle. But the benefit of doing it consistently and regularly is, like, I recommend if you're going to do this breathing exercise, minimum 5 days a week, ideally every single day for 10 minutes a day. And the reasoning behind that is because I mean, you do see a benefit even after like one session, but if you want to see like the long-term benefits, if you're like looking to lower your blood pressure, then doing it consistently every day is what's going to happen, because what we're doing is we're retraining your nervous system in a way. Because let's say on average, you're breathing at 15 breaths per minute right now. But if you do this daily practice of like 6 breaths per minute consistently, you start to breathe. You train your body to breathe in this way, maybe your average breathing drops down, maybe not perfectly to 6, that would be unlikely, but maybe it drops down to like 10 breaths per minute. So you're kind of getting your nervous system closer to a relaxed state. So you do it enough and consistently, you start to breathe like this automatically. You don't even have to think about it. You're so aware of your breath that you're like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I'm breathing really fast, so I better like slow down my breath. That would help. And then you don't have to think about it. And eventually, if you do it consistently enough, you don't even need the app, really. You could just hear the music in your mind and just breathe along to it.
So there's two big separate pieces. One is as a tool, which is to say that if you practice enough times, in times where slowing down your breathing can be of use, you will remember or know how to do this exercise and have it as a tool for yourself. Right. And then 2, you basically, as you do this, are training your body to more naturally breathe slower. So you will have less instances where you catch yourself in situations where you think, oh, slowing down my breathing would really help, because you're already doing it out of habit.
Right. Yeah. And if you're already keeping your body relaxed out of habit, you know, when those stressors hit you or just come up, as you know, that's life. Stress is going to happen. You know, it doesn't seem as stressful, or if you're able to handle it healthier, it's not going to destroy your day. You can be like, okay, I can roll with the stress and keep going.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
My question is, do you have like a favorite type personally for yourself?
I think the exercise that works best for me, or that I do most often, and I don't know, there's probably a more technical name for this, but I don't know it. But doing meditations, thinking of like as attention training, thinking of it as attention training has really been a useful frame for me. Especially like as my thoughts are wandering, then catching them and coming back to the breath. For a long time, I was trying to do that type of meditation and was frustrated.
Yeah.
And once I changed the frame to, this is a form of training for my attention, this is me training myself to catch these thoughts more often, was really useful adjustment. Which is weird. It's weird to meditate and then get frustrated about it. Like, what a silly idea. It defeats the whole purpose. But that change in frame made a huge difference, and that's one that I do very frequently. So it's very similar to what you were saying, which is just following the breath. And then when I catch myself with my mind wandering, which is very often, and bring it back to the breath, I count that specific part as the win, right? That's the part where I'm like, okay, cool. This is what I'm here to do, is catch this attention and bring it back. And that's been really, really useful frame for me as training attention.
Wow. I love the kind of reframing it. And I think that what you're dealing with, especially for other software engineers who might be watching, or just anyone who's just like has a hard time and is frustrated with meditation and doesn't like it, to be like, oh no, it is training for focus. I think that reframing would help people be more inclined to stick it out through the discomfort of meditation in the beginning. Yeah,
because I think, I don't know, for me and for the people that I've interacted with mostly, that's one of the hardest parts, is once they get over the barrier of wanting to try it, they try it and don't really understand or have a clear frame on what is going on. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm just sitting still, and am I wasting time? What is this?
Right.
So that was really, that was like one of the big breakthroughs for me in terms of seeing the value in the practice. I felt the physical outcomes, and that was really nice for a very long time. But actually getting that other piece out of it meant a lot for me.
Yeah, I could see that. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions that I have for today. Anything else you want to share?
The only thing that I really want to add is that if anyone is watching this and has questions or topics or things that you would like us to cover, we're open to topics. We're open to taking on just about whatever in the realm of happiness. Just wanted to make like an explicit call out to if you have questions, you're welcome to ask us.
Yes, type it in the comment section or send us a message. We're happy to share our thoughts about any topic in the happiness realm. All right, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you have a happy day.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. See you next time.